急げた激勇者よ時の迷路を走り抜けろ Until the dying day
If there's a hole, it's a podcast's job to thrust right into it. It's Super Audio Robo Podcast Z. I'm Ark, that's Neff, and this is the show where we recommend you the finest mecha content for your cultural and artistic development.
Oh, I should have known you would have went with that line. Oh my god, how did I not see that coming?
It's the most mimetic thing from this entire fucking anime.
Yeah. We're talking about New Getter
It's also
Robo.
totally in line with what like the characters of this series would be thinking.
Yeah. Oh boy, we're back with Getter today.
Yep, New Getter. This is New Getter Robo.
And it is a trip and a half, I'll say. Even if you know Getter, it's still a wild watch.
Yeah, this is special. It's definitely like of the Getter anime projects. Like this is the one that's like our favorite, but collectively.
Yeah, by far. So why don't we start by talking about the synopsis for this one?
Sure thing. The Sao Tome Research Institute has been hard at work studying the Getter rays and harnessing its energy into the powerful Getter Robo. However, mysterious creatures known as Oni begin to appear in proximity to the Getter, and Professor Sao Tome must find 3 able-bodied pilots that can use the Getter to defeat these monsters. The rogue martial artist, Ryoma Nagare, the vicious terrorist, Hayato Jin, and the lecherous monk, Benkei Musashibo, are drawn together by fate to fight against the Oni and uncover the mysteries of the Getter itself, in a new take on a familiar story.
Yeah, you might have noticed this is Getter with a few differences, and like one of them being that Oni, it's not the dinosaur empire.
Yes, we are not going to get any robot on dinosaur violence in this anime, but that's fine. It makes up for it in other ways. I mean, if you wanted that, you could watch Shin versus Neo. You know, you could go with that, but that's a whole other topic we'll get to in a bit.
Yeah.
So might as well explain some of the history of New Getter Robo, kind of what led up to the creation of this anime. Well, in short, New Getter Robo is a super robot OVA series from 2004, produced by Studio Brainspace and directed by Jun Kawagoe. This would also be the last Getter Robo media that Ken Ishikawa would have any involvement in before his passing, or at least was like alive for it. You know, this was only a couple years before he would pass away. But at least it was being worked on by people that were very familiar with Getter Robo by this point. At least of all, working on adapting it into anime OVAs.
It's people who have already directed like a bunch of Getter OVAs by now.
With Kawagoe, that started all the way back at Getter Robo Armaggeddon, where he was the director tasked with picking up the pieces on that project after Imagawa left after the first 3 episodes, and basically took all the potential plot details with him.
And thankfully, this doesn't have that problem that Armageddon had. Like, I realized they were doing their best with what they got, because...
Yeah.
I can't...
Yeah, it really was just a difficult thing to figure out, like, how the fuck do you, like, translate, like, or just, like, take the high concepts that those first 3 episodes were trying to, like, build up, then just, like, the guy that was coming up with them is no longer there, and it's like, well, shit, anyone got the manga on hand? Maybe we could get some ideas.
Yeah. Like, I know we both have thoughts about, like, Armageddon, but I do not envy a director who has to continue work after they've been told, oh yeah, you're not going to get shit. Just do your best.
That's it, though. After Armageddon, he did also direct Shin Getter Robo versus Neo Getter Robo, an OVA short enough that it could count as its own movie if you combined all the episodes.
Oh yeah.
But compared to those two, New Getter Robo, from the outset, it still looks like another OVA that's in line with the style and presentation that had been basically cemented with those earlier OVAs, because, like, part of the reason why Armageddon is still remembered a lot in anime mecha fan circles to begin with, is because it was technically the first time that a Getter Robo anime had ever actually like stepped away from kind of the more sanitized like classic super robot vibes of like the Toei anime from the 70s and was trying to actually capture some of Ishikawa's more unhinged sensibilities. And New Getter Robo does that, but I'd say takes greater strides in capturing those ideas like even more accurately. You find that with New Getter Robo, it is a anime that starts with like the core plot and idea of that original manga, like first part of the saga, not counting any of the subsequent sequels like Go or Shin Getter Robo, and makes some key changes in particular areas to, you know, just so that they're not repeating the original plot exactly as is. You know, they're still using it to like explore new ideas.
I'm gonna say this is the closest we'll get the manga in like, well, this and the game, that old PS1 game, are the closest we'll get like the manga story animated, but this is still kind of its own thing. It goes off in a very different direction.
Yeah, because pretty much the biggest differentiator, kind of got the hint already when we read off the synopsis, but it's also like it's focused on a very different like enemy faction. You know, like these are things that have some inspiration from the manga in certain regards, but there is more of an emphasis on like Japanese mythology and history kind of informing the overall plot. I mean, like the Oni themselves, like they're literally called Oni, like they're pulling on a lot more from, you know, like that aspect of mythology. Like there was the Hyaki Empire from Getter Robo G, which were like a quote unquote demonic faction. You know, at least that's how they were introduced. But if you've read the whole manga, you realize, well, I guess it's demon of a certain sort, but it's still more rooted in sci-fi and time travel bullshit.
Yeah.
But with New Getter, you can tell that no, these are for real, actual, goddamn like demonic monsters. And so like you also see it combined with like stuff that ties into like aspects of like the Heian era in Japanese history, and even like mostly in terms of like visual and character designs. But if you've looked at like any panels or like of the character art from Ishikawa's Kyomu Senki, his other big like magnum opus like manga series, it also pulls from that too.
Yeah.
And Kyomu Senki is like known as like the other big manga of his that was like just a huge kind of crazy like sci-fi melding with like Buddhism, Eastern religion concepts.
It made this OVA make a lot more sense after knowing about that, like his other mangas. I was like, oh, they were also pulling from that. This is kind of like, this isn't just Getter. This is kind of like more of an amalgamation of like most like of his other works as well.
It is the Getter series that I think, barring the Getter Robo arc anime, which was like over a decade and a half after this and meant to be more of a direct adaptation of like one of the chapters of the manga, like this is the Getter series that it like most embodies Ishikawa as a creator.
Yeah.
Even though it's a case of like, you know, it's directed by different people, he was just there to be like, I presume for like Kawagoe and everyone to kind of poke his brain about. It's like, so could we do something like this? Would this be something that would fit? Would this work as like a part of Getter? And was probably there to sign off and be like, yeah, man, it's cool. Go nuts.
Yeah, go for it. Why not?
It's New Getter. It's not old Getter. So with this being an OVA, as you might imagine, the distribution for this was obviously not made to line up with like a regular like TV release schedule, but which is kind of funny considering that it was like that this is like 13 episodes. It's basically like enough episodes for like TV length episodes. I should add, by the way, like it's pretty much about as exact to like that sub 25-minute amount of time that you would give to like an episode on TV, but I mean, as you would find, it was way too fucking gory and over the top in 2004 to ever have gotten like any broadcast time on TV.
Oh yeah.
But it still had its production and turnaround time was so fast that like I'll admit, like I always, for a good while, I kept forgetting that this was an OVA because it had that. It genuinely did feel like it was meant to be like a TV series.
Yeah.
But they just pumped out the episodes pretty quick, and their OVA release schedule was that they basically released 2 episodes a month, like 2 at around the same time, with like the final 3 episodes being being released all in the same month because it was 13 episodes and not an even number. So that meant that the series was released from April 9th to September 10th of 2004.
Yeah, like I also keep forgetting that this is an OVA because it feels it had like the production of a TV show. Well,
I'd say it would too, considering that, you know, this was 2004 and we were like well past the age of like traditional cell animation, so you could tell that like texture wise the show has a very different look compared to those past Getter OVAs.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest contributor to it, because it has that early digipaint look. I guess jank, if I want to be less charitable.
Yeah, it's a little jank. There's a lot of things I like about the show, but the digipaint part is not aged as gracefully.
Yeah, which is why part of it is that we thought, oh yeah, this seemed like it was made for TV, but then like it kind of hits us like, wait, no, that makes no fucking sense. There is way too much blood and dismemberment to have ever like found like a time slot in like prime time or whatever the hell in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess that's just like the backstory, short and sweet, as far as like how of like kind of what went into the creation of this anime up to its distribution.
Yeah, there's not much, but that's fine. I'm not sure where else I'm going to bring this up, but I want to just mention this because it's funny, and we have to fill our SRW quota of the episode.
Yes.
So Getter Robo is a staple in SRW games. It has been in, I gotta say, like good 99% of them. New Getter Robo has only appeared in one series, and that was in Neo on the Wii. And the reason that one is so funny is because that one also happens to have a lot of, I'll just say, like kid-friendly series in it, like some of the most kid-friendly series. And then there's this New Getter Robo. And it's like, why are you here?
Yeah, because the whole idea with Neo was that, like, it was basically the Super Robot Wars game, where instead of having, like, a split kind of even distribution of real and super robots, they thought the gimmick for that is, we're going to have it be all super robots, which meant that, like, I guess with the rights that they had to choose from at the time, that meant, yes, they also had to, like, they had very slim pickings as far as what they could choose. That would be, like, totally appropriate next to New Getter. So that's why you got a lot of kid-focused stuff like Elderon or whatever the fuck. I think that's one of those. Wasn't one of the, I'm pretty sure one of the Super Robots was like a series where the whole gimmick is that an entire elementary school is a super robot and all the kids are piloting it.
Yes, that is also one of the shows.
Yeah, so imagine something like that. Paired up with a modernish reinterpretation of Getter Robo that is as faithful to the spirit of Ken Ishikawa's madness.
It's just so funny that out of all the Super Robot games out there, this is the one they decide to show New Getter Robo in.
God, what I would have given to have New Getter replace Armaggeddon, like slot in all the other subsequent Super Robot Wars games, though.
Yeah, maybe. I'm still holding out hope. Hopefully one day.
Yep. And whatever. We finally got to have Getter Robo Arc appear in Y. That's something.
Yeah.
We at least got a break from like the same old shit from like that one OVA that like they're not even pulling stuff from the plot for it anymore.
Which, you know what, fair.
All right.
Yeah, why don't we talk about like the robot or the one primary mecha anyways?
Yeah, because I mean there are giant Oni that like the Getter fight, but like is it really right to call them robots? They're not very machine like, if anything. They're just kaiju.
Yeah, they're just kaiju. They're just fighting giant kaiju.
Yeah, so we might as well talk about this particular version of Getter Robo, because much like with how this anime is for like, but I think mecha fans at large, you know, compared to its more recognizable entries, there's a lot of things about New Getter Robo that I feel are underappreciated, and I think the design specifics of New Getter Robo's, actual Getter Robo itself is in a similar boat. I absolutely love what this design has to offer.
Yeah, they really hone in on the whole Oni aspect of Getter Robo for this design, way more than any other show by far, I think.
As well as taking key elements, I think, from past Getter forms besides the original, because there is there's moments in the first episode, and you kind of see bits of it throughout where you actually do get to see the original OG Getter designs of all its three forms, but the way it's contextualized is that those are all the failed prototypes leading up to the real Getter Robo in this show. And so when you see how the new Getter actually differentiates from it, it's still on the surface, it's okay, yeah, it looks like a slightly more aerodynamic version of what the original Getter Robo was, especially in its Getter 1 form, the body of the OG robot, we all know what it looks like. It's very pill-shaped.
Yeah.
But, you can see with New Getter, especially with, Getter 1 in particular, that is very slimmed up, a bit more sleek-looking. When the three machines combine, which, when they combine to form, the actual Getter 1 itself, which this is really, I feel the only time you actually see it happen. I can't remember if it happens with Getter 2 or 3, or if they just didn't care because they're not as important. But when you see the ships ram into each other to combine into the Getter as they're supposed to, there's a slightly more effort, I think, put into showing mechanical actions that parts of the ships are actually unfolding and changing in a somewhat reasonable manner to form the various limbs and body parts of the robot.
Yeah, there's definitely a little more effort than just cram them together and they form Getter or something.
Yeah, just real goofy shape-shifting bullshit. But it doesn't stop there. That's not the only thing that kind of makes it stand out. It's the other visual elements that, for Getter 1 in particular, that it takes from, such as Getter Dragon or Shin Getter. If you look at the, Getter 1 always had, a cape. That was essentially its Getter Wing, I think, as it was called. But it doesn't have, a traditional cape on the back. Instead, it has, two wings, as it were, kind of triangular shaped wings, and that's that's basically a callback to the Getter Dragon from Getter Robo G, where it had that exact same wing shape to it. And then of course there's very obviously, I think, stuff taken from the form of Shin Getter 1, with the more pronounced, I would say, kind of arm blades.
Yeah.
The really, they're just so much larger and spikier compared to where it looked with Getter 1, you just took the edge of a buzzsaw and glued those onto the forearm itself. And then, of course, there's the head shape, which I think, as far as Getter influences, I think this is one where it is clearly taking something from the design, the specific design that Shin Getter Robo had in Armaggeddon. Because surprising to probably most people, there are actually genuine differences in terms of which version of Shin Getter Robo you're talking about, if it's based on the manga or on Armaggeddon.
Yeah, it is.
And the head shape is arguably kind of the biggest indicator that it's because of the chin.
Yeah, which I didn't realize until I actually started reading the manga myself, but yeah.
Yeah, you look at the manga version, it's the face is very much more it is just OG Getter 1's face.
Yeah.
Just on a much bigger and more imposing body. At least when it comes to the other forms, I'd say a lot of them, what they have in terms of their design is even more influenced by other forms of the Shin Getter Robo. Getter 2 is similarly sleek in a way that it does remind you a lot of Shin Getter 2. And Getter 3, we all know, is our lovable, no leg bastard of a robot.
Yeah.
But instead of opting to follow the same visual design that the original Getter 3 had. It was like, nah, we're just gonna take what we established with Getter Armaggeddon and kind of how it was like a kind of a tri-series of like oversized tank treads, and then we're just going to have that be new Getter 3's kind of like bottom half, as it were. You know, so yeah, a lot of Shin Getter influences, but this is all being applied to a robot that is nowhere near the size of Shin Getter Robo itself.
Yeah, kind of more like, a little smaller than that. It's still kind of like original Getter in its core, but just more of a remixed version.
Still get some familiar weapons and attacks across them as well. You know, Getter 1's obviously going to have its Getter Tomahawk. No giant machine guns, though, unfortunately. That is still manga exclusive. Well, no, manga exclusive, and I guess technically Armageddon as well, because of the OG Getter designs getting a lot of play early on.
Yeah.
But Getter 2 is still going to do what you expect it to do with its drill, and Getter 3 is still going to toss motherfuckers with the dice at Orochi. Like everything about Getter, despite like the sleek upgraded look, is still Getter Robo at its core, and that is what makes it great. Our soul robot that was worth talking about is out of the way. Very familiar, but the differences were worth touching on. A similar thing as well with our primary characters, of which they're pretty much all the same as when we talked about the manga like episodes ago. But again, there's some key differences. All of our 3 pilots, none of them are high school students. We're not going to try and pretend with that bullshit. No. These are like real malfunctioning adults.
Yeah, this time
I was about to say functioning, but then I was like, hold on, these are Getter Robo pilots.
Yeah, the only thing that's different about them is their age, and that's pretty much it, because they're still kind of psychotic.
But even though it does make some of their psychotic actions a bit more understandable, because it's like I could see an adult with like the freedom of no responsibilities or school obligations or any other shit being able to get away with some of the shit they do.
God, yeah, that's true. At least you could kind of see it now a little.
Yeah, a little. Definitely one of those things where I'm pretty sure it was a case of like, because of the fact that this was being made and so far removed from like the, from the era in which the OG Getter Robo was made, is like, I would not be surprised if it was like a combined like agreed upon decision between like the staff and maybe Ishikawa as well, where it's like, the true essence of these characters don't need to be linked to like them becoming giant robot pilots when they were only children.
Yeah. Like
Ryoma Nagare, our hero, in a sense, our protagonist, still, on the surface, kind of still a lot of the same background as he did in the original. He is still a martial artist. His dad was like a renowned / incredibly feared martial artist, kind of disgraced. And instead of going around busting up dojos as revenge against all the different martial arts schools for basically shaming his dad, presumably, I'm just going to make a guess. He probably already did that years ago and is now past that. And instead of getting picked up by Saotome, immediately, he just went on for several years, continuing to be like a vagrant, going to the one bar that he's friends with like the owner of, and constantly ordering stuff, having it put on his tab, which he never pays, and also getting into altercations with the local Yakuza because of debts that he refuses to pay them.
Of course, yeah.
He refuses, but that's also because, bro, he is incapable of paying it. He has no money. So the best he's going to do is just brutally beat the shit out of every gang member that like comes after him.
Yeah, why solve your problems with words when you could solve them with extreme violence?
Yeah, and the police are just never going to touch you. It's like Yakuza.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, unless it's like as dictated by the story. But even then, like, no cops in this anime ever get the idea of, maybe we should like catch this guy. He seems to be causing a commotion. But eventually things do line up with how it was in the original manga, where Ryoma does get scouted by Professor Saotome and chosen to pilot the Getter. And this is another case where where you can tell one of the differences between the original manga story and this. is that being made so many years after that, and with like the knowledge of what Getter as a franchise ultimately became, that this story of the anime really likes to run with the idea that, like, of everyone that is tied to the Getter, Ryoma is explicitly the most important because the Getter has chosen him.
Yeah, pretty much.
But he's great.
He's
like,
so good.
He's violent, hot-headed, like, so everything that you want out of a character bearing the name of Ryoma Nagare.
Yeah.
Like, just super unfiltered in any way.
God, he's so much. Everybody's so much, but he is also so much.
Yes. The other pilots of Getter, well, at least one of them is still here, mostly as he was from the original. Hayato Jin, our pilot for Getter 2, the high school terrorist who decided that he and his gang were going to plot a political assassination for kicks. But obviously we're not high school students anymore, so it's like, well, surely he's taken up a different hobby in his adult life. Oh, was that he's just straight up a domestic terrorist? Okay, cool.
Sure. Yeah, that, what makes more sense than being a high schooler leading his own, like, mini terrorist organization, I guess.
I mean, I guess it goes to show that, like, kids in the Showa era were just built different, like, plotting, like, domestic terrorist actions was just an after-school club.
Yeah. And taking over.
But at least the terrorism angle does, as fucking funny as it is in the OG manga, that in a lot of ways, I would never want that any other way. If there had ever been, like, the proper, like, faithful adaptation of the Getter Robo story in anime form, that would be one of the things where it's like, no, you cannot change that. This is non-negotiable.
Yes, this has.
But in New Getter's case, Hayato being a terrorist, but only as an adult, obviously makes more sense because, being older and having the connections and, like, resources he does makes a lot more sense because he's not just hanging out in an abandoned school building with a bunch of other delinquents. It's like, no, they probably do have, like, an actual, like, info network or, like, ways and, like, of, like, getting, like, the necessary resources that they need in order to do, like, fucking infiltration, like, jobs on, like, government institutions so that they can steal, like, military trade secrets or shit and, like, sell it to other people. Who knows?
Yeah.
But, like, it's through those actions that, kind of in a reverse from how it was in the manga, where Ryoma and Saotome basically sought out Hayato on his turf. Hayato learns about the Getter from as a result of, like, his his terrorist operations. So he just goes straight to the source, and that's how he gets roped into this.
Yeah, it's very different, but he just kind of, like, walks right into a situation he didn't want to be in.
But also quickly adjusts after having the usual, like, cry it and shit it and piss it himself, like, as he sees all of his men just get brutally eviscerated by Japanese demons.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, he's still sticking around, both because he's chosen as another pilot for the Getter, but he's also interested in learning more about the Getter for explicitly his own reasons, which makes sense.
Yeah.
He learned about that from, like, his terrorist work and is like, seriously, what the fuck is this old man hiding? Like, why the hell is this happening? He must know something and he's not telling us. But obviously, with this being Getter Robo, you gotta have a third pilot. Yeah. And who the third pilot is might actually surprise you.
Is it Benkei? Is it Musashi? What if we just made a character who was both?
Yes. We have Benkei Musashibo. And, he is the kind of lovable oaf of the group, but is also, I think, just to make it so that there was no longer that insane level of disparity between, like, Hayato and Jin versus the third pilot, like there was in the manga. Benkei is a lot more of, like, a morally compromised character than, I think, any other Getter 3 pilot in history.
Yeah, no, he's kind of a lech. He's a giant pervert. Like a
he is a big-bodied brute of a man who somehow managed to get, like, converted into being a Buddhist monk. Like he was basically like he took over the storehouse of, like, some farmers that like that they had to call in like a priest in order to like exorcise him. But all it really did is that it basically put Benkei in that monk's debt and then proceeded to train as a monk himself, albeit not very good at it. Like, he at least shaves the head. He tries to look the part, but he tries to cheat out of his responsibilities, hide things from like his master if he thinks it suits him. As you said, he is also very much a lech. He is like, he just wants to get his hand on a woman if he can help it. He's morally compromised, but he still has enough of a moral center within him where he's able to realize at times when he is actually being pathetic and not living up to the sort of standards that he promised to kind of live up to under like his Buddhist teachers. Yeah. So it's the sort of thing where like his introduction to the team kind of similar to Musashi's in a sense, where it's a case of like the people he knew like in the kind of like the countryside area, instead of being de-evolved into monkeys, his teachers just get turned into Oni. Yeah. And like has no choice but to basically like kill them, which obviously grieves him all the same. But it's because of that and like the encounter with Ryoma at the time that is like he does get brought along to become the third pilot for Getter Robo. I mean, Saotome definitely wasn't going to be able to do it. Like, no. It's the same in the manga and the same in here. His body just cannot handle that. Yeah. So we're just going to give it to the big monk dude that is apparently that is carrying a sword with him that he claims belonged to the famed Raiko Minamoto of the Heian era. But he can't prove it either way that it actually is Raiko's sword. Or even so much if he's able to unsheath it because it's clearly rusted to shit after so many centuries that it's stuck in the sheath. Believe it or not, that might actually be a plot element that's important.
I was going to say, this might or might not come up later as something in the show, but who knows?
Yeah, it's nice. I also think other things that are worth noting about Benkei, both design-wise and I think as far as intent of his character, is for one, it should be noted that with this being an anime from 2004, this was after Getter Robo arc in the manga had started and presumably had basically left on its cliffhanger of what would have basically been volume 2. And Getter arc at the time, like its third Getter pilot, was actually like a character that Benkei's like visual design shares a lot of inspiration from. Baku Yamagishi, Getter Arc's third pilot, who also has like the look of like a Buddhist monk, and like in the story of the manga, to not get too deep into it since it deals with like later chapters of the entire saga, is that like he was like the brother of like how best to describe it, like ascetic, psychic, I guess psychic or something like that. Yeah. So he was the brother to a character that ended up being very, very important despite being a late introduction in Getter Robo Go. Yeah, but that's at least the way of like kind of highlighting that, yeah, as Ishikawa got further and further along in his manga career, a lot of his interests in Buddhist imagery and spiritual ideas were definitely starting to show through, and like Baku's character is kind of an example of that. Benkei Musashibo also kind of exemplifying that in its own funny, unique, corrupt way. His full name, Benkei Musashibo. It's taken the two names of like different characters, but most everyone refers to it as Benkei. Yeah. And I definitely, on top of the fact that like the names of Benkei is also referring to a legendary figure from the Heian period of Japan, I feel like as well maybe this is just projection on my part, but I feel like this Benkei is supposed to like make up for the fact that Benkei, as he was first introduced in Getter Robo G, wasn't really much of a character.
Yeah, no, Benkei didn't really have much to him, actually. He's kind of like the lesser Musashi.
Yeah, just because it was like he was the one that had to be called in to replace Musashi, but Ryoma and Hayato never changed, so it was just like it almost at the time made it seem like it was like putting even less value on the idea of like of a third Getter pilot if like it's going to just be swapping like these two out because they're big lovable oafs. Arguably Musashi more lovable because he felt just so out of place.
Yeah.
Benkei originally always had just the aura of being like, yeah, I'm here.
I'm here too, guys. And it's one of those. It's one of the few things where I felt like the original anime where he was a better character because they had more time to flesh him out.
Yes. Yeah. Combined as well with how even in Armageddon, like, which also had both Musashi and Benkei in there. At least Benkei had more screen time by default, so they kind of were able to like fit him more into like the specific role that they felt made the most sense given the change in story that they needed to, where he's more the mentor father figure of a sense. At least at least the mentor figure who is not as like cold and callous like Hayato is.
Yeah.
Like that. Those are our 3 Getter pilots of one of the best iterations of the trio, honestly. Though obviously, like, it's still hard to ever top the actual OG Ryoma, Hayato, and Musashi.
Yeah.
But this comes close.
This is pretty much.
I really love their dynamic, least of all because of how you can tell that like their backgrounds are not the exact same as it were in the manga, so they're able to kind of explore different avenues of like both their camaraderie and antagonism with each other.
It's also like this is, as we keep saying, this is the closest we'll see the original trio animated with something that's close to their personalities from the manga.
Remaining characters, I mean, obviously we have to have Professor Saotome in this, since he's the one that is like bringing together these pilots, and he's definitely still a bastard, to put it simply. Arguably more so because running with New Getter's theme of being, a reimagining of the original Getter story with all like the hindsight of what Getter Robo became in the manga over the course of decades, that it leans so much more into the idea that Saotome has more of a clear idea of what the Getter Rays are, and is, rather than just coming clean with it, is preferring to just simply like manipulate those around him in order to like get the results he needs. Because as you would imagine, like this being Getter Robo, there is no coincidence behind like the villains in the story popping up around the same time as the Getter Robo coming into being.
Yeah, he's still a morally compromised kind of a mad scientist.
He's definitely not a laughing mad scientist.
He's not.
Certainly. So it's not that. But
no.
I think what makes there's otherwise not too much different with his character. What really makes him more interesting in this story is another character that has seen like the most radical change from her original incarnation.
Yeah.
Yes, her. We're not talking about a dude this time, because we get to talk about Michiru Saotome. Yeah, it's Professor Saotome's daughter, in a very different role and personality than like any previous depiction of her.
Yeah, she's already an improvement from the original because she has a personality.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. Like, she is so, like, they really could not get her to like accomplish anywhere like the same level of like romantic chemistry with any of the Getter boys the same way Sayaka could with Koji.
Yeah.
Like, she was always just like, she always was just there as kind of like to kind of help out or like provide comic relief, especially with her little brother. Her little brother's not around, and Michiru, meanwhile, she clearly decided in order to improve herself that she went over to the Nerve headquarters and just raided Ritsuko's wardrobe and decided, this is who I am now.
Yeah.
She's got the lab coat, she's got the skirt, she's got the fucking pendant.
And she's more, how would you describe her as personality this time? More like...
Yeah, I guess like cold, pragmatic.
Yeah,
it's
she's
like
more pragmatic.
It's the sort of thing where I feel part of it is meant to be like, in some ways, like she's almost kind of mirroring her father in her own way, in that she is like very focused on like her work, like her dad is focused on everything to do with the Getter Rays. Michiru, meanwhile, is more focused on like uncovering the secrets of what the Oni are.
Yeah,
and because of how her dad kind of like composes himself, like this is the other part that makes Michiru interesting in this anime, like in the long run, is that you get to see the sort of like tension between the two of them, and the fact that like despite being father and daughter, they they arguably do not see each other like that a lot of the time.
Yeah, they are very cold to each other in a lot of ways.
And even then, it's not the sort of thing where, like, you know, they could have easily made it where, like, Michiru still had her more, like, sympathetic qualities that they tried to have, like, in the original manga and especially the anime, and have that be the source of conflict. But no, she's still, like, she is still very work-oriented on her own shit. She just doesn't like how much of, like, her dad is so focused on his particular field at the expense of, like, telling everyone the kind of, like, of, like, what the deal is. Yeah. Especially since, you know, like, her older brother, much like in the OG manga, also, like, ends up biting it. And, like, in the first fucking episode, trying to, like, protect the labs.
Yeah.
It's funny. When I first saw this version of Michiru, I almost thought this was a case of you're trying to fix this character, but you're swerving way too hard in the opposite direction. But I've honestly grown to actually, like, love it at, like, as she is in this anime, like, over time.
Yeah, it's something I've also learned, like, just kind of appreciated more nowadays. It's like, okay, I see what you're doing with this character. You're kind of trying to give her a personality, and also, like, make her more in line with the rest of the cast in a way.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Like, they show that, like, you don't need to make a character, like, absolutely psychotic like the Getter Boys, but you can definitely have them, like, you know, like, have some, like, wrinkles in their personality that show that they're not all just, like, sunshine and rainbows or something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's definitely something I appreciate, even though I do think the attire was definitely the first thing that made me think, okay, you're really trying to course correct maybe too hard. but no, she earns that fit, like, by the end of it.
Yeah.
Like, all the characters in this are good, and that's obviously just the like, the main characters we're talking about. Even the villains, like, as it gets later into the series, you get some that have some, you know, like, pretty defining characteristics of their own that you remember them as well. But I mean, these were the ones that we could talk about that are basically part of the story from damn near the entire beginning.
Yeah.
So, why do we recommend New Getter Robo?
Why do we recommend this?
Yeah, to kind of call back to a thing that we keep emphasizing when we've talked about, like, the similarities and differences of, like, the robots and the characters that we discussed. Like, we know the Getter Robo manga is a certified classic.
Yes.
You know, it's from its original chapters all the way to its unfinished finale. It is wonderful. But when it comes to anime, it's like there isn't an option that you can point to as a direct adaptation of the original work where it's like, you know, if you like the manga and you're trying to recommend to someone who only chooses to watch anime, like, what would you say is the Getter anime that is as good as the manga? Like, is there one that is like the manga or something like that? Well, the answer is not quite, but the closest is definitely New Getter Robo by a long shot.
Yeah.
Like, Getter Robo Arc, the anime, it may be directly based on the manga itself, but again, that's covering the arc chapter of the Getter saga with, like, bits and pieces sprinkled in there that are, like, their way of trying to animate key moments from, you know, earlier chapters. You know, low budget, but a work of passion. Oh, but it only really makes sense to watch it if you are a fan of the manga itself. New Getter works as something that you can watch if you are either a fan of the manga like us, or if you are completely uninitiated and just want any anime in this franchise that you want to get into.
Yeah,
it understands Ishikawa and his sensibilities the most.
It is definitely way more accessible than a lot of the other works, and it's something you can jump in as just like, this is what Getter Robo is actually like. This is what you can expect to get if you decide to read the manga afterwards.
I know people are going to, like, constantly go on about Armaggeddon. Like, that is still seen, unfortunately, as, like, kind of like the most beloved Getter anime somehow. But like, we've already gone over the issues with it enough times anyway. It's like, you know what the deal is. Like, we're going against the grain, but we don't care. This is our podcast.
Yes, our podcast.
And another thing that we did kind of, like, mention offhand, but it's still important to mention as sort of a caveat, but you know, doesn't really bring it down too much, is again the fact that New Getter Robo, compared to the previous OVAs, you know, with it being a product of the early 2000s, that you did see, like, that early shift to digital animation instead of, like, traditional cells. it's like most obvious with the fact that like not just the color palette and like the use of colors itself, but also just the fact that you can kind of tell, I think, with like the resolution that it was probably made at as a baseline compared to later widescreen anime from like 5 years after this point, that you could see where a lot of the jank comes in, and the fact that they're kind of relying on some cheap tricks where it is like you know how it is with anime where they the traditional cell animation. If they're trying to do something that is like resembling parallaxing, where it's like multiple cell layers that are moved around, it's like for whatever reason, the way it was always done with traditional cells looked so much more convincing as opposed to when they tried to do it early on with like digital animation, because it always looked like cheap flash movement.
Yeah,
it's the sort of thing where you do see moments of that in New Getter, which are unfortunate, but I think at least stylistically, it's made up for the fact that it is true to like the sensibilities of Getter Robo being a violent work.
Yeah.
So it's not cutting things back when it comes to animating fight scenes and having them look awesome.
Yeah, at least like the animation is on point. It doesn't look, at least the animation itself doesn't look cheap most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the sort of thing where like those cheap moments that I brought up, which are kind of like occasionally show up in New Getter. It's like if those were being used so constantly during like the big hype moments that the show wants you to be excited for, it would absolutely have tanked the anime.
Yeah.
Like, no questions. They obviously did not have all the money in the world with this being an OVA to like have the most lavish animation budget ever, but they at least knew how to allocate it properly so that the really good moments look fantastic and you are just marveling at like all the robot on kaiju violence and even all the human on human violence with all the gory like bits that entail. There's a lot.
Also, very briefly, since we mentioned like other Getter Robo works, I like Getter Robo. I like Getter Arc more than most people. I sure wish it looked more like this, because that anime does not animate.
Yeah, although I still kind of get a kick out of that like that fucking like alternating 2 frames aims of Takuma holding the machine gun and firing it, and it's just 2 frames jostling back and forth.
It's so funny looking.
It's like sometimes like, okay, this is bad, but this is endearingly bad. I'm on board with this.
Yeah, they're trying their best with what they're given, which is nothing, no budgets.
God, what is the fucking meme tweet when it comes to video games? I want I want cheaper games with worse graphics and people being paid more to do less, and I'm not kidding. Yeah, it's that, but anime. Just give me more of that.
Yeah, give me more of that, actually.
Get us back to that period, damn it. I don't care. Save your fancy Sakuga animation for like when you decide to make an OVA, please. Yeah. You are devaluing like what this direct-to-video animation was supposed to be.
Also, like, please stop abusing your animators as well. Please let them have a break.
Please, for God's sake, stop abusing them and stop giving them all to like the same 2 or 3 studios. All right, like you think everyone in MAPPA is happy? Well, I mean, they're probably happy with the paychecks, but well, actually, I can't say for sure. They're probably still paid like shit.
Probably.
Okay, rant over.
Yeah,
back to the topic.
What about, we're talking about something good.
Yes, talking about something good, such as Jam Project. That's always good.
Yeah, Jam Project is always
They're
good.
in this.
I had a realization since we're talking about Jam Project. I know this is another off-topic conversation, but I realized Jam Project only kind of has one type of song. But it's okay because I want that type of song all the time. Give me your you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, it's like no one else is going to fucking do it, then it's up to them until they die.
And this show is like, what if we just made a whole Jam Project album for this anime?
Yeah, because they do the opening, which is fantastic. Dragon is still like, it is the song that to me epitomizes Getter Robo at its core. Like, it's kind of in the same way that I think Kanjite Night from Shin Mazinger Z is the song that to me is Mazinger, like what it's all about. Dragon is like the same way for Getter Robo. But obviously Jam Project's involvement does not stop at the OP. They also do the ending, which is a very, it's a much lighter kind of ballad that kind of eases you out of the hyper-violent intensity that is any episode. But also, you even get like plenty of insert songs. You get 2, in fact, that I was reminded of because those are going to, I mean, spoilers, that's going to come up in our highlight discussion. Like, there's certainly a point that you cross when you watch New Getter Robo, where if it's going to increase the excitement of in any moment, this anime will 100% like either use the opening again or use any of the special insert songs that they made. There's so many vocal tracks.
There's a surprising amount, actually.
It's so good. So with all those good points made, where to watch New Getter Robo? Well, for this one, if you prefer streaming, there's unfortunately no official option if you want like the quick and easy way on that. But for physical owners, they actually get something a bit more this time because Discotek has you covered as they have the distribution rights for the OVA and have released Blu-rays for it like within this decade. If you want to go that route, by all means, do so. But obviously, like for more digital solutions, that you're going to have to be sailing the high seas for that.
Yeah, at least if you decide to go the Blu-ray route, you are not going to lose a lot of money out of it. It is very affordable. It's pretty affordable.
Yeah. That said, I am kind of curious to like see like what the subtitles for the Discotek release are like because with like because to kind of again show my age, it's like the files I have for like the episodes of New Getter Robo that are on my hard drive. It's like they are so old because it's like when I was rewatching the series again, it was like, oh yeah, these are the exact same subtitles I remembered this shit having almost 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'd be very curious to see if anything was possibly like updated or like if maybe if they lost the plot on like how to properly localize certain terms or whatever so it's not so dry. Because the subtitles I had, and presumably the ones you have as well, are pretty good at like understanding that whenever Ryoma is referring to Professor Satomi as G-san, they always like translate it as old shithead.
Yeah, that makes sense. He would say that actually.
So, I mean, I'd be curious about that, but I don't have the money or lack of sense to dump money on a bunch of anime Blu-rays. So that's for you at home to decide on your own terms.
Go watch the show. It's good, actually.
Do that right now if you haven't, because you know what time it is. We got to get ready for our spoiler discussion.
Spoiler time.
So if you're curious about what we have to say, or you have already watched New Getter Robo, then like by all means stick around. Otherwise, go fucking watch it. It's 13 episodes. You can bust this out in an afternoon and you will have a bloody good time. You know, emphasis on bloody.
We'll see you for the spoiler discussion, y'all.
Change Getter 1.
So this was a giant swerve.
Yeah. And this was coming right off of like the big moment where Ryoma said the line.
Yeah, sure.
They indeed saw a hole and they thrusted right into it, chasing after a giant Oni, like through Lake Biwa, by the way. And like traveling through this hole ends up getting the three of them separated and sent to the Heian era of Japan. We got time travel, y'all.
We got time travel. Okay. I actually have a small confession.
Yep.
I actually didn't like when this happened. I think I wasn't a big fan of it originally, but after I knew about, Ishikawa's larger work and knew about like how this was influenced by all of that, I kind of have a better appreciation of it because like I didn't see this coming. This was like this really just knocked me on my face. I was like, what? Okay, sure.
I mean, the thing that like got me super excited was like when I noticed that like because of this particular period of Japan, that meant that there were going to be very specific characters I recognized because I played the Otogi games on the original Xbox. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's true because it's like Ishikawa not only is made Getter Robo and Kyomu Senki, but he has also done like quite a few like one-off manga stories that are like actually like that qualify as historical fiction, like actually basing it around like kind of very key like battles in history and like if not just Japan, then at the very least in like the surrounding countries of East Asia. So as this episode starts, we get Ryoma waking up in the field, Hayato and Benkei nowhere in sight, but he sees a shit ton of Oni that all need their ass kicked right now. And he does so. It's like this is what we're talking about before transitioning to spoilers, where no matter how jank and kind of like low res a lot of the early Digipaint anime looks, it's like Brainspace like knew how to allocate their budget for like, you know, not skimping out on any of the fight scenes, because like this particular fight with like an Oni in samurai armor, like in a grassy field at night, like this monster versus Ryoma, just the choreography on display is fucking amazing.
It's so good.
And it's after a moment like that where you see basically like pulling out to get the larger picture of where we actually are, where it's the Heian era, except not quite, because aside from Oni being here, we also have actual, like, fleets of airships being led by a gender-bent Minamoto no Raiko as they are storming the Dark Capital.
It's very, very a very, very loose definition of the past.
I mean, as it turns out later on, it's clear that, like, yeah, this is the past, but something has arrived here in order to, like, completely throw it out of whack.
Yeah.
It's almost like to say anywhere the Getter shows up, or people related to the Getter, is like, that's just the sign of chaos to come. But also, before we continue in this, like, adventure through the past, we do get the briefest look back at what's happening at the Sao Tome Labs. And it is the only time you're going to see this for the duration of this story arc.
Yeah, we are not going to get much of them after this.
Everyone, like, being all like, look, we can't find where the Getter is. Satomi's frustrated by this. Michiru shows up to basically just, you know, give a piece of her mind about the whole thing. Like, both of them are about as much at a loss as far as what to do, and you're still seeing that, yeah, the like kind of like the work focus of both of these two is preventing them from like getting any closer on the matter. So we'll just go back to the past right now, where we get kind of like the first proper villain for the Oni faction that we get. Least of all because he is voiced by Takehito Koyasu. I love your performance as evil Abe no Seimei. It is beautiful.
It's so good. Anytime he's in a role, it's a treat.
Just that wonderfully smooth voice.
Yeah.
Like the amount of roles that he has had in mecha anime is always such a treat. So there is a version of Abe no Seimei, and he is evil as fuck. Basically taken over the OG capital of the Heian era, turned it into Dark Capital, which is why Raiko is leading the charge in trying to take it back forcefully, but they all just get shot down. They get their shit pushed in. And so like this kind of what I was getting into about the fact that like I got excited when this story was starting off because of the characters that were being introduced as key part of it, and the fact that I played the Otogi series. You know, like, you play as Raiko as the main character in that, and in the sequel, like, you had a playable, like, female version of Abe no Seimei. But those are always, like, the most two recognizable names, like, when it comes to, like, this historical period among those characters. So I was initially thinking, oh, it's just going to be those two. Until I realized that the person that Ryoma was talking with, that he had saved from those Oni, and then later has to kill because he's turning into one, it's Suna Watanabe, one of the 4 generals of Raiko. And it basically clued me in that was the case, because Kintoki is alive, the big burly bearded man with a giant axe, who's basically the only right hand left to Raiko herself. Yeah, they all have a collision with Ryoma, as he kills Suna Watanabe to prevent her from turning into an Oni, but everyone looks at it and is like, what the fuck, you kill Watanabe, you must be a demon. And no one wants to explain shit.
Nope, they'd rather just beat each other up. Well, Ryomo tries, but they just won't listen to him.
Yeah, so they just fucking like put him in bindings and escort him back to like the current, like, I guess the temporary capital, their base of operations. So yeah, Ryoma's now in some deep shit. Though it's not like he's not really gonna be held down by anything for very long. But meanwhile, just so you know that, like, the other two pilots are not lost forever, Benkei's already adjusted to life in the Heian era, returning to his previous ways and getting thrown out by his wife for being a shit. And Hayato is still a monster, to the innocent and guilty.
Hayato is still he's always like a cold, calculating figure, and that hasn't changed.
Like, he sees a dude getting ganged up on and, like, extorted by bandits, and instead of helping him, he just leaves. Until the bandits decide, hey, hold on, you saw that, you're gonna have to pay us in order to keep quiet, and then decides, nah, I'm just gonna kill you, fuck off, I have a gun now. What's that? Guns aren't supposed to exist in this era? Too bad, they do now. God,
I love Hayato.
Yeah. I also love Benkei. Poor bastard. His hair even started to grow back. I love that that's the thing, and it kind of highlights that, yes, because he was practicing as a Buddhist monk, it's like, he wasn't bald, like, naturally or whatever. It's like, no, he had been shaving it by choice.
Yeah.
And now he's in a situation where it's like, what fucking implement is he going to have that he's able to, like, get that, like, perfectly smooth dome again? Not for a while.
Not for this arc.
Yeah. So, who wants a prison break?
Oh, yeah, also, like, Ryoma just kind of breaks his own chains with, like, no problem. He's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm just gonna get out now, and he just gets out.
It's real funny. Like, I think for any other series, it would be kind of frustrating, but considering how, like, OD this anime can be a lot of the time, I am fine with the fact that Ryoma did not think, like, at any point during, like, the escorts back to Raiko's headquarters to just break out of his fucking restraints the first time.
No.
He's just like, man, fuck this. I don't care anymore. I'm just going to leave.
Yeah, I'm leaving now.
Like, not even going to, like, Raiko herself to, like, get revenge or anything. He's just gonna be like, fuck it, I need to leave. But Raiko's not gonna let him leave, at least not initially, because what follows is a duel between the two, where Ryoma is offered a sword and absolutely refuses to use it.
What a fucking Ryoma move to do. Like, I don't need a sword.
Yeah, just what a disrespectful asshole. He actually finally realizes Raiko's a girl because he cops a feel accidentally. Like, you see him physically recoiling after, like, his hand accidentally touches the bit, and is like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's like, you're a woman, and her reaction is, yeah, I never tried to hide it, dude.
Yeah, it's like, strength matters most in here. And it's like, honestly, fair. And I respect that, like, we have, like, such a masculine looking woman in this anime that is like, that is so matter-of-fact about it. It's like, yeah, I'm a woman. This is who I am. What of it? Come fight.
Come at me, bro. It's like, you know what? Actually, this anime is braver than I thought it is, actually, for putting in such oh my god. Can you imagine if this anime aired today, how many people would just immediately be very normal about her?
Yeah, just the fucking, like, everyone just crying woke over a gender bent Raiko, over a historical figure that most of these chuds don't even know exists.
I'm also thinking of all the lesbians who would be like, hi, mom.
Oh, that too. Yeah, you would get both. Yeah, you would get both sides of the cringe. Just focusing all on this. Oh well. But yeah, it's like, after that particular moment, Ryoma does actually get to just walk out of there. Like I guess, like, Raiko figures as much after this, that's like, we're not gonna waste any more, like, manpower, like, trying to, like, capture this guy or kill him. It's like, if he's gonna leave, I'll just let him leave.
Yeah, just all right.
But until then, Benkei and Hayato finally reunite, kind of in a situation similar to how Benkei was first introduced. It's Hayato who is, like, taking up space inside of a shed that no one is able to get him out of there. So Benkei's Heian wife is like, oh yeah, my no good husband's a big guy, he can take care of it. Hey, did you hear that? Stop pretending you didn't listen, shithead.
How pathetic. Well, that's what he's.
Yeah.
What he says.
That's his catchphrase.
Yeah.
So they meet again, and they're like kind of realizing that, okay, so what happened kind of arriving here is that they give a bit more detail to us, the audience, of what happened in that sort of hole that led them to the Heian period, where Getter 1 was trying to ride the current, but like just the force of like all the energies inside it caused the ships to not only like separate and like like just fall off wherever, or not even the ships necessarily. It just like it just got rid of all the pilots and spread them all over this period. Not just in terms of location, but also time, because they did not arrive here at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Presumably, Ryoma is the last, with Benkei probably being the first, considering he managed to survive long enough to get married. But as this is getting explained, we get to see the drawing that has stuck with me for so long since this anime, and has informed so much of like how I view the visual design of Getter Robo and its influences, because we see like a traditional Japanese ink drawing of a giant red two-horned oni with an axe, a giant demonic like drawing of Getter 1 that is genius. Like, it is no wonder like I could never have like thought that was a possible like influence for like the silhouette of Getter 1 had I not watched this anime and got to this moment.
Yeah, this is where they kind of drive home the point that's like, oh yeah, did you get that? It looks like an Oni now. It's also just a badass drawing, actually.
It's good. Yeah, you could probably hang that up on a wall, and you would probably be able to like fool a few like non-anime viewers and into thinking that it's like, oh, the nice traditional Japanese art. It's like, ha ha. Yeah, it
is.
Also, Benkei, never fall asleep in front of Hayato,
God
you dumbass. Because that was another thing we forgot to mention about his character for Benkei. Anytime someone has to like explain like important high concepts to him, that is grounds for him to immediately doze off while on his feet. Hayato, you could tell, is like, you don't see his face, but you know he is pissed off that he immediately cocks the gun in his hand.
This is what you get for disrespecting Hayato. He's not afraid to just shoot you if he must.
If he must, or if he wants to, but he decides, nah, I better not kill him. I'm just going to fucking give him a concussion on the center of his head.
Yeah.
Like, Benkei just wakes up and is like, I got this huge bruise on my head. I don't know where that happened. Do you know where it happened, Hayato? Shut up! So now Hayato and Benkei are off on their own path, looking for the original Getter, because it is clearly arrived in this time period based on the fact that someone was terrified by it, that they drew an image of it as a demon. But apparently there's like hints that like buried or like embedded somewhere like within the landscape of Japan itself, because the Getter Robo also arrived way before all the other pilots, even before Benkei. So that's what they're looking for, while Ryoma is just wandering around and going to be like killing anyone that gets in his way. Seimei is still, chilling out in his tower in the Dark Capital, abusing his female servants. I mean, they're technically Oni as well, but it's not a very comfortable image.
It's not.
But he does bring up an important point that applies very, very well when it comes to giant robots. Like in stories that include them, and like there is no reason for a villain to preemptively like get rid of a robot that could be like a threat to it. You want to fight that thing and like crush the person that's inside it. He says it himself. Is it fun to destroy a container that has no soul? There is meaning only in destroying it with those inside it. This is like some Ernie from Knights and Magic, like code of aesthetics shit, like on the same level of wanting to die, like go down with the robot in battle.
Yeah, it's like, nope, they gotta be in the robot, otherwise it doesn't count. It's the only thing that matters.
So he's just going to wait until they get the Getter recovered and all three pilots are together again. So with Hayato and Benkei finding where the Getter is and proceeding to excavate it with dynamite, Ryoma is raising hell with as many katanas and axes as he can carry underneath his cloak.
It's so funny to me that he happens to have axes that look like Getter axes. that he just happens to be
Yeah,
swinging around.
they're just straight up tomahawks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hammering on the idea that the Getter is Ryoma, and vice versa. That's like a fun, exciting end to that first episode. Like all these episodes end like with like final moments that like really get you excited to see what the next episode is gonna have.
Yeah, like you want to see more.
Yeah. So we finished episode 6. I can't believe I actually forgot to mention like what the number and name was at the start, but that was episode 6, the mansion where the Oni dwell. And now we're moving on to episode 7, the Yin Yang Master, where it starts super strong with Getter Robo getting partially excavated, like you see the top half emerging from the mountain after it had been blown up. Basically, the top half is open, which is what they need in order to, at least for Hayato, to get into his cockpit of where Getter 2 would be, and then like try to get it to boot up. It's taken a while, but like this is what we were talking about like about the insert songs and how like this anime loves to make use of Jam Project at the right moments.
Yeah.
You get one of the first insert songs, Saga, kicking into high gear. You get the buildup of the song when it first starts, like the kind of like the slow intro as Getter itself like is booting up proper. And as soon as Hayato hits open get, the saxophone kicks in and like we get to hear Masaki Endao fucking singing it as Getter Robo breaks free and fights a giant Oni that has arrived to fight it, like almost fortuitously so.
It's so cool. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's done so well.
And it's even interwoven as well with Ryoma continuingly to effortlessly murder Oni by the dozens on the bridge. Like all the wild axe swings, like the dismemberment of like these fucking demons, like, oh, fuck, I just realized, like, the comments I wrote here, man's going ham like it's Ninja Gaiden 2.
Yeah.
I remember I wrote this, like, days before, like, the news came out that Itagaki passed away.
Yeah.
I swear I'm okay. I could continue.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering how you were, but yeah.
God damn it.
Rip to a real one, though.
Yeah.
Kind of a legend, actually.
He probably would have dug this scene if he saw it.
Yeah.
But let's get back to talking about happier things, like the rest of this fight.
Yeah, this is like Ryomo starring in his own Dynasty Warriors game right here. He's like slashing through all these books and it's going.
Yeah, it's like if we were to ever have gotten like the most comprehensive, like action-focused Getter Robo game ever, not only would there have to be like, you know, the Getter Robo gameplay itself be really spot on, but I feel like there would have to like, just to put icing on the cake, have on-foot action sequences where it just turns into a character action game where you play as Ryoma.
Yeah.
But as the fight is going on, you know, not only is Getter fighting against the giant Oni and Ryoma is fighting against a bunch of mini Onis on the bridge, Raiko sees what's happening and decides to jump in with an assist, giving him a katana, which he proceeds to baseball swing a fucking shockwave out of.
God damn. Yeah, sure.
Like he finally decides to use a sword, and suddenly he's playing it like it's the OG Legend of Zelda. He's not getting hit. He gets that shockwave buff.
Sure, yeah, like of all the people who would get it, he'd get it. Because he's just that powerful.
Yeah, it's so good, just the way you see it, like, cleave through all those Onis and seeing them falling apart into different pieces. Like, we made comments here and there about kind of, like, what we feel is enough or too much when for, like, ultra violence in anime. Like, I think we've both agreed that we're generally, like, not fond of the stuff that is particularly cruel or torturous or, like, hyper detailed when it comes to, like, the nature of, like, kind of like the gore itself, like you see in a lot of 80s OVAs.
Yeah.
This one manages to avoid that despite the copious amount of blood and dismemberment, because it feels so stylized and focused more on the fact that it's like you're just seeing the blood, you know?
Yeah.
I think with that Oni in episode 6, the one in the samurai armor, you saw like the face like getting cut off, that you started to see part of the brain, but like it cuts away just fast enough to like not feel the need to linger on the gross aspect of like, yeah, we cut off this dude's face and you get to see like the vivisected part of his brain. Isn't that hype? And I'm like, not really.
Not really.
No.
It's done stylized enough where it doesn't feel gross, and it's not like you're seeing like guts fly out of a person's like stomach being cut or something.
Yeah, again, it's literally just blood squirts. Like, lots of crimson red. Fucking MPAA. If this were a movie, they would have had a conniption. So yeah, Ryoma kicking the most ass yet in this entire series with that fucking bridge sequence. And meanwhile, with the Getter itself, turns out it wasn't just Getter 1 that was buried in that mountain. The Getter Tomahawk was there too. And how the robot finishes its battle is that you get to see something that doesn't happen often, and that is like a Getter form using a weapon that is not associated with it.
Yeah.
Getter 2 picking up that tomahawk, breaking it out of the mountain to like finish off the giant Oni is a pretty good way to end it.
It's the first and only time we'll ever see something that's not Getter 1 use the Getter Tomahawk, but it's done well enough.
Seriously, can you believe that was just what the first portion of this specific episode entailed?
Yeah.
Like, you really deciding to just start off with the most hype shit yet instead of building it up for like 20 minutes. This anime is brave.
Just going at it like for the first few minutes to hype you up for the rest of it.
And then just being like, okay, the middle part, we'll let you cool down for a while. Benkei and Hayato are just sitting by a campfire. Benkei in particular just got back from retrieving his stuff from his home, managing to get it without his wife noticing because God forbid he wants to explain this shit to her. But at least he didn't get her pregnant.
He very explicitly says that he has left no seed behind. It's like, maybe thank God. I don't know.
I don't know. I guess actually I don't know like what the rules of like traveling through time ultimately would be like. I choose to think that in New Getter's case, it is probably more of a case where like shit corrupted the Heian era so heavily that it became its own timeline that their original time they come from is not affected by this either way. Like, because you really do get the sense from, like, this conversation with them talking about, like, just the nature of the era they are in, the Oni, and even what the Getter is, that you're starting to get the sense that, like, these characters are in over their heads dealing with things that are beyond time and space.
By far, yeah.
Like, Benkei asks the question you pointed out,
like...
and, like, you are correct as far as, like... Yeah, I don't think anyone's ready for the answer to that.
Yeah,
it's a bit much.
He asks, "What the hell is Getter, anyways?" And then it's like there's an entire manga that's asked that question, and it's like, it's terrifying. Oh, it's so much more terrifying, actually.
And the worst part is we still don't know like the true extent all the way to the very end.
Yeah,
we only just have a glimpse, and everything after that is like just theories and interpretation. It really does feel unknowable.
Yeah.
So as they're chilling out, Ryoma also has to chill out because with that assist that Raiko gave him, it's like they have basically now become like the allies for the time being. It's interesting. I feel like at this point, kind of to coincide with what happened in the last episode when like Ryoma realizes that Raiko in this era is a woman, is that she stops wearing like the chest plate that she had during her introduction.
Yeah.
And it kind of emphasizing more is that, oh yeah, like not only is she a woman because of the fact you can obviously see the boob outlines, but considering like the rest of her physique, it's like, oh no, she is more proudly displaying the fact that she is a big-bodied woman.
Yeah.
So Ryoma gets to hang out with her now. Like, oh, that whole accusation from the start of episode 6, that's all bridge under the water. Yeah. Come over, let's drink, let's party, let's enjoy our lives before we potentially throw them all the way as we storm the Dark Capital again. It'll work this time, hopefully. So we get Ryoma pissing in a pond and then getting puked on by a drunk soldier. Like we mentioned as much already with New Getter that obviously its handling of the violence is such that like it's stylistic in a way that it doesn't feel gross or crude, but that doesn't mean the anime still can't do this shit to remind us of how adult the anime can be.
It's very crass,
but also still kind of fitting.
Yeah.
It is totally in character for like a Ronin like Ryoma, where it's like if he doesn't have a bathroom, he probably will just find a bush to piss in or take a shit.
Yeah, he probably doesn't care. He's that kind of person.
Yeah. Like if a new problem comes his way, he's just going to punch it and move on. Yeah. That's just who he is.
When we wouldn't want it any other way.
But at least that encounter does kind of give him an idea because he realizes as much why everyone is just getting drunk out of their minds and partying. because of the fact that it's like, bro, they're going up against a bunch of demons tomorrow. Their last few assaults on the Dark Capital have not worked out. They're betting everything on this next one. They're probably going to die, and like realizing as much that like they're probably going to die very needlessly. On the day of the next attack, it turns out that Ryoma has just left and is going to fight the Oni himself with a reason that is actually incredibly fucking sound. Like literally yelling at Raiko's face, calling her a dumbass, it's like, if we all just go together as it is, it's like, you're all just going to get slaughtered. I'll just go there and take care of it myself, and you can have all the scraps. That way there'll be less death.
Yeah, I think it also kind of gets into the core of Ryoma as a character where, okay, yeah, he's a hothead. He's kind of a little more morally ambiguous, but deep down, there's a good person inside there who's like, no, I'm going to fight them so the rest of you don't die, actually. He's just also really rough, like, he's got a really rough personality, and he's just going to punch somebody who doesn't like you. Yeah,
he definitely has like enough of an understanding at this moment in the story where it is like him arriving here and like and the stuff that he's been doing with the Getter have been happening for a reason, that he's like he is basically a man that has been that is just born to fight anything that he considers an enemy. And if the Oni are his enemy now, then he is just going to do it independent of like what other people are going to do about it. Like they may share a similar enemy, but he's like, yeah, he'll just go ahead and like fight them anyway because that's what he does best. He admits it so.
He's a fighter.
So what follows after this is the second time we get to see Ryoma open his cloak to show off all the weapons he's packing, and this time it is more ridiculous.
Oh my lord. Rocket launchers. He's got rocket launchers now.
Yeah, because again, the way technology has progressed in this version of the Heian era has gone out of whack with like the introduction of the Getter and the Oni. So it's like it's more fair to say, I guess, that they're portable cannons because they're clearly shooting cannonballs. But I mean, whatever. If this were in a modern setting, these would 100% be tube like missile launchers.
Yeah.
And then charging at the Oni with a bunch of dynamite in hand.
Just like, holy shit, Ryoma, what are you doing? Okay, sure, he just doesn't give a shit.
The rocket launchers, dynamite, he's got all kinds of like other sharp implements and throwing stars, all kinds of stuff. Anything that could be used as a weapon, he will use it in addition to his fists, and proceeds to tear shit up inside the capital for a pretty good fucking while until a giant Oni gets summoned in by Seimei, which, as you might imagine, puts him at like an incredibly huge disadvantage. I appreciate the restraint and like understanding of Ryoma as a character that they realize, okay, Ryoma's strong, but he's not so strong without he's going to like fucking pull off any of like the shit you see in like Giant Robo, the OVA, for instance, with like the Experts of Justice.
Oh yeah.
It'd be funny to watch.
It would,
but it would also be very out of character at this point.
It would be kind of out of character for Ryoma.
Which is why Getter 2 makes its entrance accompanied with the show's OP, just like fucking like just ramming into the giant Oni. Like as it's about to crush Ryoma. So there we go. Seimei now has his wish. Not only has the Getter Robo arrived, but all of its pilots are together again. He is so excited for this that he proceeds to call on Oni from all time and space to come to this one location for the fight of their lives. And that's the cliffhanger. We get the tease of a giant robot-sized free-for-all that is ready for the finale of this story arc.
A lot of shit happens in the last 2 episodes, and it's going to continue to happen for the next episode. That's right, we're talking about 3 episodes instead of 2 this time.
Yeah, this is a 3-parter that, like, works out very well, and because of how action-focused and fast everything moves, it's not like we need to, like, dwell too long on the specifics of, like, certain dialogue or story beats, because we're going into episode 8, Collision, and much like the last episode, we are starting with a Getter Robo fight synced up to another insert song. This one is called Warrior. The previous one, Saga, was sung primarily by Masaki Endao. This one, sung by Hironobu Kageyama. I also love as well just all these I gotta say, all these one-word song titles for just this anime, Dragon, Saga, Warrior, it's like you could tell they were all made with this franchise in mind.
Yeah.
It's like they are words that perfectly embody like key aspects of what Getter Robo is about.
Maybe they just used all that OVA money to get as much Jam Project songs as they can get, which, fair.
Oh, I hope so. They were saving up in the long term for this one. Yeah, we got like starting out like Getter against like 4 different like giant Oni, doing a pretty good job of taking them down, and like even Raiko's armies are not too far behind. Like they finally depart with their airships and are actually, rather than just just sitting on the sideline starting out, they are actually participating as well, providing like fire support the whole way. Just there are so many individual things that could be said about like what goes on in this opening fight that I think just taking show notes about just that fight would be as long as the notes that we both wrote for the rest of this episode.
Oh yeah. It's so much happens in this fight.
We get some pretty good kills though.
Yeah,
especially Getter 2's fatality, as you call it.
Yeah, it's just a straight up Mortal Kombat fatality where he drills Oni's head off and rips out its spine. It's like, holy shit, Hayato.
It's like reminding you that, it's not just the drill that he has, it's the claw hand. And that claw hand can basically be rotated like an electric screwdriver. And then, of course, like once it's done, he just zips off screen like nothing personnel, kid.
You can't say the show isn't creative.
Yeah, like all the different forms of Getter Robo like are definitely getting their time to shine during this fight. But even so, the fights can't keep going on exactly as is, because it has to remind you that Seimei is still OP as fuck. Because great as the spectacle is, he's like, all right, we got to move things along, and then just proceeds to one-shot the entire airship fleet.
Yeah, he's the final boss. Okay, except...
Yeah, Raiko abandoned ship, but is at least able to jump off it to, like, get close enough to the top of the tower in the capital, which means she is very close to Raiko's position and is going to try and kill him best she can. And I say best she can because it's like, to show how strong Seimei is like, not only does he manage to repel something as big as Getter Robo with just a simple barrier, like creating like a pentagram like in front of him in the sky, but even after like he lets his guard down briefly that he gets stabbed through the back by Raiko, he shrugs that shit off, grabs the sword, and then fucking electrocutes her. What an asshole.
What a jerk. Why do you have to do that? I mean, it's his evil.
You remember the shit-eating grin that is on his face as he does it. He is so evil. It really is thinking, you thought that shit was gonna work on me.
Yeah.
Definitely by this point, you're learning to hate Seimei as a character while also loving him because he's voiced by Takehito Koyasu.
You love to hate him, at least.
Yeah, he's doing a good job voicing a villain. It works. But it is at this point, middle of the episode, that we have the battle resume on foot. Ryoma gets out of the Getter along with Benkei, kind of after the Getter is briefly crashes. Hayato doesn't get out, which, I mean, I get why he doesn't get out of the Getter, but I could imagine if all three decided to team up on foot, they would have done even more damage. We've seen what Hayato can do with his razor-sharp fingernails.
Oh, we absolutely did. That man can tear it up with that.
But at least with Ryoma and Benkei heading to Seimei's location, the reason for that is obviously because of the latter bringing his rusted-up sword with him, which cannot be unsheathed. It's almost like the plot point is going to have a payoff now, especially since they're, in the period when Minamoto no Raiko was alive. And it was technically her sword.
Yeah, at this point I was like, oh, right, the sword. I forgot about that for a moment. That is important.
Yeah, as it turns out, Ryoma and Benkei still not a match against Seimei on foot, as you would imagine. But the sword at least manages to reach Raiko's hands. So not only do you see it finally unsheathed, as well as being basically what everyone was telling was probably the case whenever Benkei brought it up, that it's like, dude, the sword's probably rusted to shit. That, yeah, it is. It looks that way. It, like, the whole thing looks like if you were to swing it, like, the blade would just snap. But no, what Raiko does is that she, kind of at her wit's end after being so brutally beaten, realizing that she was not going to come back alive from it anyway, decides to like empower the sword, restore it to its former glory by stabbing herself to give it her life force. And sure enough, it gets passed on to the man of destiny himself, Ryoma Nagare.
Rip Raiko, you are a real one. I wish you were around a little longer, but I guess you have to have your final sacrifice.
Yeah, and you can tell following this, Ryoma is definitely pissed. Fucking swings that sword and nullifies like one of Seimei's like kind of like paper dolls that he sent out to like cast like an incantation, and then just stabs the bitch.
Just stabs him.
Yeah,
and you can see it's like, oh fuck, I get hurt.
It actually hurts now. Yeah, and it appears initially to be like, oh, he's defeated. No, not yet. He calls in a massive fucking Oni that he commandeers from the inside of. Like, both him and his two, like, female servants, I guess, like, are part of the control apparatus. So, they still gotta finish this fight with the Getter Robo itself, because we know what anime this is.
Oh, yeah.
And sure enough, like clockwork, like the previous episode, Getter 2 crashes into the scene and triggers the OP to play. Kind of funny that it happens twice in a row, but I'm not complaining.
Listen, I'll listen to that song all the time.
You'll listen to it until the dying day.
Until the dying day.
What a fucking English line that goes so hard it speaks to my soul.
It's so good.
The only thing that like improves it, I think, even more, that song is just the 2021 version that they did for Getter Robo arc. It feels so much more sentimental if you're a Getter fan.
Yeah.
Because of just everything about that anime existing in the first place and being like, I can't believe this is actually happening after so long. I don't care how jank it is. Ishikawa's smiling on us.
This truly has like his spirit in it. You can see Ishikawa everywhere.
And so we get the toughest fight for our heroes yet. That, it all works out in the end, even though there is so much destruction and you're still seeing like the rest of Raiko's foot soldiers, like if not getting killed by the Oni, then probably getting buried under all the rubble caused from like the destruction between these two giants fighting each other in the capital. Kintoki at least looks like he's still alive. Like he's still hanging on despite all this, which I respected. Yeah. He's definitely one of the most famous of the four generals. But like with this fight being the climax and kind of how heavy it is, it's like you would think that this would surely be the end of Seimei. But no, he's going to come back like 2 episodes later. But at least until then, Getter sees like kind of in the wake of defeating this giant Oni that there is now like a massive like hole in time and space, similar to the one that they went into the first time that led them to the Heian era. The era that Seimei was apparently sitting here and waiting for the Getter to arrive, which again is supposed to highlight more and more that just we are dealing with enemies that do not abide by like the linear progression of time. Like they somehow knew that our heroes were going to go into the past, so they just went into a version of the past that would be super corrupted just so that they could like take care of it here. And that didn't work. So now the Getter is going to use one of those same holes to just go back to their own time, because surely that'll work out. Well, it mostly works out, I guess.
Not really, but kind of.
Yeah, because they do go back to their time, but specifically a few years after when they left to go to the Heian era. Because in that time, like in those few years in which there was no Getter Robo, I guess because Professor Saotome was still a paranoid old shithead, he had an entire fortress of guns set up to unload on anything that would come out of like a time rift. And unfortunately, it unloads on the Getter the instant it appears. I made this comment because I feel it is super important and like kind of wild that it wasn't in this OVA, but you would think that this was Professor Shikishima's idea. But no, he's nowhere in this anime.
Of all the characters they left out, he was also another one. They're like, probably not for this one, actually. Which, I would have loved to have seen their version of Shikishima, but oh well.
At least we got to see Shikishima in the Getter Robo arc anime.
Yeah.
They at least remembered he existed. It's funny, too, because with, like, this fortress of, like, guns, it's like, It's because they do that exact same shit in Getter Robo arc. It's like the mountains around the Saotome Institute just opening up to unload a shit ton of guns on the Andromeda Galaxy forces. But whatever, I guess that's just another case of like, yeah, you're seeing all the different pieces from like Ishikawa's like whole like breadth of works just being condensed into this 13 episode OVA. We only covered 3 of those episodes, and everything that happens after this still continues to be crazy.
Especially the way this show plays the concept of Getter raised, which I feel like this show is the closest we've come to like Ishikawa's vision of how terrifying they are, actually.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was just the I mean, even with stuff with like the vision that Ryoma gets not too long after this, where he sees a future just consumed by the Getter, where like just the most fucked up human evolution of humans are now Getter Robos, and they are all fighting to like obtain like the true source of the Getter itself, which is like not the Emperor technically.
Yeah.
Like, it goes by a completely different fucking name, yet it is still, like, just as terrifying as what the Getter Robo is, like, destined to ultimately become in the original manga. Oh, it's so good.
It is really good.
Oh, I fucking love new Getter Robo.
It's so good.
This was one of those anime as well that, like, for this podcast, like, compared to all the other ones where it is, like, they're usually, like, such big, like, works that you have to get through in their entirety, you know, like, we're talking about, like, you know, maybe, like, 24 to 26 episodes, if not, you know, like the occasional few ones that are actually like super fucking long, you know, like Photons or Gundam X. Right. But like this is one of the few where it was like, yeah, like we watched these highlight episodes, but like because of how short it was, I like earlier this year during the production of this podcast, I just decided, yeah, I'm going to rewatch this entire OVA again because it's just that worth it.
It's worth it, and it doesn't take that long to like watch through all of it. It's only like 13 episodes, and that's like you can get through that like in a week if you want.
Or if you're really all about binging shit, again, that's like an entire Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, which is like this is probably the most approachable Getter will ever be, and it is like the culmination of like what's great about Getter. It doesn't have like like the one thing I'll say is it doesn't have any of the deeper themes of Getter, but that's fine. It has like the soul of Getter in it.
Yeah. You know, due to the scope of the anime, it's not like it's going to be able to like do its own version of Getter Robo Go, you know? But by the same token, considering Armaggeddon basically turned into its own bastardized version of Getter Robo Go, maybe we don't need to keep retreading that.
Probably not.
Oh yeah, also because Shin Getter Robo versus Neo Getter Robo was also kind of that too.
It was also kind of that too, but I liked Shin versus Neo, even if I don't know if I call it good, but I enjoyed it a lot.
It really is like just like kind of like one of those like old Toei anime movies that they do where they were like the versus movies, you know? I mean, even the title's reminiscent of that. But at least with Shin versus Neo, you actually got to see like the most glorious recreation of Musashi's last stand.
Oh yeah, it was great. Like,
yeah, I guess that's one thing as well that like New Getter does not do at any point, which I guess actually makes it kind of refreshing. There is no attempt to try and emulate that. But I guess it makes sense because Benkei is Benkei.
Benkei is Benkei. That's fine. We don't need to have the last stand again. Yeah. I think we've seen it enough at this point.
Admittedly, if it had gotten a sequel series, we probably would have had Benkei Musashibo probably going out the same way Benkei did in the manga.
Oh, yeah.
But that's kind of how it is. There's so much to like about this anime.
Yeah. It's just a lot of fun to watch. It's just an experience.
Thanks again, Neff.
Yeah, of course, and thank you for having me on as well.
Everyone at home, glad you listened to this. Tune in next time where we talk about an anime that covers the struggles of a mecha pilot being a high school student. Not the other way around, as you might think.
Which one could that be? Well, tune in next week, motherfuckers. Yeah. Goodbye, everyone. 轟け雷鳴嵐の中